we're now being joined by Blessed Soga. She's the head of diplomatic desk on Joy News. Thank you very much for joining us on the program, Blessed.
It's good to be with you.
All right. So my first question to you will be how Ghanaians are receiving this current visit, diplomatic visit, we'll call it, to Ghana by Kamala Harris.
There's been a long-standing relations between the United States and the Republic of Ghana, and throughout our history, especially within the Fourth Republic, we've constantly seen these kinds of high-level visits. I started off in 1998 with a visit of President Clinton, and then in 2008 we had of course, George Bush visiting our second president of the Fourth Republic, President John Jacob Kufuor. And then in 2009, that historic visit of President Obama is still fresh in our minds, where he touched down as visiting one of the first African countries, of course, and choosing once more Ghana. This time around, after a number of years, we're seeing Kamala Harris, after shattering the ceilings in the United States by becoming the first Black vice president, touch base with Africa and is still making Ghana the gateway. So she's beginning today a 3-day tour of the country, which will then see her move to Tanzania and later on to Zambia. And here in Ghana is the same form of euphoria. In fact, at the airport, she was welcomed by some school children and young people who are deemed to be the future of the world. Now, she also stated that as part of her visit, because she pointed out that by the year 2050, we'll have 1 in 4 persons around the world living in Africa. So basically, she believes that Africa is the future to invest in, and there will be a need for a head trip to further, of course, economic ties with the Republic of Ghana.
Yeah. So you mentioned already Ghana has a strong relationship with the United States. I mean, 3 recent U.S. presidents, we're talking about Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and even Barack Obama, have all had close relations with Ghana. On the other hand, also, relations between China and Ghana dates back to 1960. I mean, since then, Ghana has provided substantial diplomatic support to China. China has also reciprocated with material support for Ghana's development. Do you see any competition here? And if it's yes, then is that a good thing for Ghana?
Well, that may be on the side of the United States, but here in Ghana, since independence, we've adopted the foreign policy of positive neutrality, which means that, of course, that infamous statement that our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, made, that we face east nor west, we're always looking forward. And that's where, of course, the country stands. The fact that we are non-aligned, we still believe that we belong to that pack of countries that are not aligned to either the east nor the west. We believe in an African solution, and it's been reflected through all of our, of course, dealings through the Pan-African movements. And for instance, we're beginning to typify that through the African Continental Free Trade Area, which believes in an African solution for the African people. So that has been our foreign policy approach. But as for the U.S., obviously, they will be concerned about the growing influence of China here, even in Ghana, because as it stands now, China appears to be our largest trading partner. They are also having an influence over our latest external debt restructuring, with our finance minister just returning from China a few days ago over the possibility of getting some debt relief from China before we could get help from the Western-led International Monetary Fund bailout, which we are crucially in need of. So that's the picture of what's happening. If you are looking at it from the perspective of Ghana, we're non-aligned, so we'll welcome definitely all of our allies from across the world. But from the perspective of America, obviously, it should be a source of worry for them.
Yes, Kamala Harris talks about things like peace and security, empowerment of women and girls. She's talked about youth entrepreneurship. She's talked about food security and climate crisis. Do you see this diplomatic visit making a huge positive change to the African continent? And if yes, I mean, what do you see to be in it for Africa as a whole, not just Ghana?
I think it's very timely, looking at the fact that, of course, the United Nations Development Program just indicating a couple of years back that Africa is likely to face a double tragedy. We're not just facing the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, but the latest add-on is the effects of the Russian-Ukraine war, which has got many African countries reeling under the disruptions in the global supply chain and the global economic meltdown. So there is indeed an impact, and you need, of course, the superpowers from across the world to try and reform the system, to try and open up investment opportunities for African countries, and to lend a helping hand to emerging countries to make it possible for them to also thrive. So yes, it's an opportune moment for us, and here in Ghana, the indication we're getting is that our country intends to leverage on this visit to also connect to the African diaspora, because we're running a foreign policy of beyond the return, which is seeking to harness the energies outside of Ghana for our economic growth. So that's what's happening, and the belief is this will run throughout the rest of the continent. So it's a good deal for Africa.
All right, Blessed Silga, head diplomatic desk at Joy News. Thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure.